So after many months of deliberation and trialing with multiple different trainers, Anthony Joshua has done virtually a complete 360 and ended up almost exactly right back where he started, because he has announced that Angel Fernandez will be his new head trainer. Now, many of you will know that AJ's been working with Angel Fernandez for many years now. He has been, I want to say, AJ's assistant trainer, unofficial number 2 to Rob Mccracken, something like that. Although I think Rob Mccracken and Angel Fernandez have had their own ideas about what AJ should be as a fighter, etc. That's my impression as an outsider looking in. Whatever the case may be, AJ's worked with Angel Fernandez for many years, and I'm sure Fernandez privately has always hoped that he would be the number 1 for AJ at some stage. And now he's got the gig. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because from what I've seen of Fernandez's work, what I think is Fernandez's work, it's actually quite good. So for example, from what I heard, he was working with AJ a lot for the Povetkin fight. And in the Povetkin fight, AJ showed a style which I've never seen him use before. I certainly didn't see it in the Klitschko fight. I certainly didn't see it in the Takam fight. I certainly didn't see it in the Molina fight, etc. But against Povetkin, after the first couple rounds, where he was fighting in the more typical AJ Rob Mccracken style, he then switched to a left-hand low, more languid, more loose, more fluid style, and that was able to defeat Povetkin. Even in the first Andy Ruiz fight, we saw glimpses of that same style with a left-hand low, a bit less robotic, etc., a bit more fluid. I'm going to assume that that's the Angel Fernandez influence, because it can't be the Rob Mccracken influence. I can't imagine anyway. So I don't think that Fernandez is necessarily a bad choice. I just think it's strange that he trialed so many different coaches all over the world, only to come back to a guy who has been right at his side all along. It's like, what was the point in doing all that? If you were so confident in Angel Fernandez to begin with, why trial all these other guys? Maybe it was a case of believing in Angel Fernandez, but just wanting to see what was out there in case anybody impressed him more than Fernandez impressed him. Or maybe it was a thing where they wanted to see what the other coaches are teaching. And if they're not teaching anything any different than Fernandez, or if they're not teaching anything that Fernandez couldn't himself pick up and incorporate into his own training regime, his own training system, then what's the point in getting somebody else and paying them even more money? Who knows? A lot of people say, and this is very true, when it comes to picking a trainer, it's not just about what the trainer knows. It's also about how well they get along, how well they communicate, etc. That plays a big part in how effective the trainer is going to be, how beneficial, how productive the relationship is going to be, is how well the fighter and trainer get along. Obviously, it can't just be that, because then you could get your best friend to train you, right? You and your best friend get along like a house on fire. Doesn't mean he's going to be able to do a good job training you for boxing, right? But there has to be an element of that there. So perhaps AJ and Angel Fernandez get along great, and he knows enough about boxing that AJ's confident in him. There was, of course, during the Usyk fight, a lot of confusion in the corner with different instructions being shouted out by different people, and that caused the viewers, the fans, to level a lot of criticism towards AJ's corner. Why is there so much confusion in there? I guess because different people have got different ideas. Different people think it should be doing different things. Rob Mccracken thinks it should be one way, and there are other people in there who think it should be another way. All I can say is Rob McCracken's way is not the way for Anthony Joshua to reach his maximum potential, in my opinion. I think he needs somebody else. And perhaps it's Angel Fernandez. Perhaps he didn't need to go that far. It's like with Tyson Fury, for example. You look at the trainers he's had in his career. He started out with, he actually had Rob Mccracken for one of his early fights, to be fair, but it's mostly been within the family. His Uncle Huey, who died, then he had his dad trained him for a bit, and then his Uncle Peter trained him for a bit, and then after that, he switched over to Ben Davison, right, after his layoff. And of course, Ben Davison is a guy who was close to the Fury team prior to Tyson Fury taking him on as trainer. And then he ended up with Javon Sugar Hill after Ben Davison. But again, Javon Sugar Hill has been, I don't want to say close to the Fury team, but he's been associated with the Fury team for a long time through Andy Lee. Because Andy Lee, of course, was a Kronk fighter through Manny Stewart. And so Tyson Fury met Javon Sugar Hill years ago, many years ago. I think the first time was perhaps when he went out to train at in the Klitschko camp, or maybe it was before that when he went to the Kronk himself. He visited there. So Tyson Fury didn't go really far away to find his trainers. They were all kind of within his extended circle already. The same for Lennox Lewis, by the way. When he, well, actually, I'm not sure how he hooked up with Pepe Correa, but when he joined Manny Stewart, he actually was familiar with Manny Stewart already, because he nearly signed with Manny Stewart as his manager when he first turned pro. So there was already somewhat of a familiarity there, you see. Whereas with AJ, he's been traveling around all over the world, meeting people that he's really got no association with, in many cases anyway. So I guess you have to take that into account. Maybe AJ just didn't feel comfortable, didn't know these people, didn't know anything about them. You know, it's hard to know whether you're going to get along with someone, and then you got to talk money and all this kind of thing. It is what it is. So Angel Fernandez is the guy. Hopefully he knows enough to get AJ to his maximum, to his absolute potential, to get him to max out the ability he has. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.